Welcome to the Real Powerhouse podcast. I'm your host, BJ Gremillion, and today I have my lovely wife, Alexis Gremillion, the Real Powerhouse herself, and super excited to have her on. As you can see from the background, it's kind of funny. We were joking about it before the show. You can pretty much nowadays do anything. You could work out of a closet if you want, as long as you just have a good microphone and a nice camera. And so that's more or less what we're doing. The office that I work out of right now, it's just a temporary place. And so we're not at the studio today, but we're making do with what we have. And I'm so glad that you decided.
You can do with what you have.
On. Yeah. Alexis will carry the show for us. So I'm excited to have her on, obviously. So Alexis, tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm married to you. And
how do you feel about that?
Great.
Really?
Yeah.
Still don't regret it?
No.
That's good.
Never.
Good.
And we have 5 kids, and they keep me super busy. That's pretty much.
All right, she's being modest. We'll open her up here in just a minute. Okay, so Alexis, I don't know if you've thought about this. We probably should, have prepared a little bit more for it. But I kind of also like to hear just your raw thoughts about things, and so.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. Well, tell me some. What are some stories or experiences that I've had in business that have been a complete failure or flop? That you were like, I told you so, or that you kind of saw the writing on the wall happening, but I just had to go through it anyways.
Okay, a couple come to mind. First, the name Rush to Fail.
Ouch. Let's start right there. It's fairly recent.
It's okay, we don't have to talk about that one.
No, go ahead.
But I never liked the name Rush to Fail.
Yeah, she never did.
The other one is hiring me to be over financials.
Oh man,
lasted about a month or two.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got in some. We don't fight a whole lot, but yeah, that was rough. Because Alexis and that is not our strong suit. And I went to Alexis, so I had a business partner for a super long time, like a decade, and it was awesome. We worked really well together, and then 2022 happened, and that just totally changed a lot of things, in Arizona real estate. It was a crazy time. So anyways, at that point, we decided, okay, he's going to focus on the development construction side. And then I'm going to focus on, the Tennessee real estate investment side of things. So with that decision, I realized fairly quickly, like, crap, I don't have like the accounting department that I used to have. And I knew that was going to be a big deal all along. But I mean, when it did finally happen and it was like, okay, now here we go. Like it's more or less starting over again. I haven't had to fill that role in like 7 or 8 years. And so and it still is something that I struggle with. It's funny. I am now, I guess, more or less like the bookkeeper. We hired a company that's helping us out as well. That's remote. But Alexis was totally willing to take it on, and
I tried.
You did try,
and I think I don't know. I think if I was in a different phase of life, I think I could do it.
Yeah,
but
I totally think you could do it.
I had no time and no capacity for it, and there's a learning curve, and I didn't have time. You didn't have time for the learning curve.
No, it doesn't wait around for us to figure things out.
Yeah.
And so those of you that don't know, we do have 5 kids. And so we almost have like 2 separate families, right? So like we have the older kids that are 12 and 11 years old. And they're, that's one group. And then we had a big gap. So we had a 5-year gap. So then we have like a 5, almost 6-year-old. And then we have twin 2-year-old, almost 3 years old in less than a month. And so we have like these 2 families, right? So we call them the littles and then the older, kids. And so the littles pretty much run our house. They run everything, and we don't have much say with what they do. And so they basically have nap time, which is right now in the afternoon, for a couple hours. And so we like scramble to try and get everything done during that time. And so I was taking away her most precious time to get stuff done at the home and run errands and everything. And I'm like, hey, can you just give me those 2 hours as well? And just go ahead and do our bookkeeping for us instead of having to do all the other responsibilities that you have on your plate. And yeah, I think we made a good decision to go ahead and call that one fairly early on in the process. So yeah. Anything else you can think of? Any other crazy business adventures that I've done?
I can't think of any right now.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. I remember you coming home like a month after we moved in our house and telling us that we were going to move like every year for the next 5 years.
Every 2 years.
So that we could not have a house payment anymore.
Yeah. I think when I realized that, okay, every 2 years when you go to sell your home, if it's your primary residence, all that, the equity that you get from the sale of that is tax-free. So I heard that and immediately was like, okay, like this is it. This is every 2 years we're going to be moving. How'd that go?
I mean, we didn't do it.
Yeah, we definitely didn't do it. I think you won that one. So we've been in our house for like 11 years. And so we definitely did not go that route. But I guess I didn't realize, and this is something that I had to learn as well, was okay, not everything has to be about business or about money. And
wait, you've learned that?
No, not really. Like, I mean, I'm, kind of like, I guess I can understand your viewpoint. I still might not agree with it. But I still am always constantly thinking about, money, and business opportunities and stuff. But that was like one of those aha moments. It was like, hey, look, and this goes for like the remodel work that we're doing on our home right now, or that, we have done. I think it dawned on me, it's like, look, this is not an investment. This is not going to be, I'm not going to have some nice ROI on this, kitchen remodel, or we recently did like the laundry room and our bathrooms and stuff. And so I'm like, I understand I'm not going to get that back, but Alexis gets to, she's been super patient with living in this home for, the amount of time that we have. And it's an awesome home. But she's also an interior designer, not maybe officially or technically. And she will use that loosely because she doesn't like to be called that. But she actually really is an incredible like interior designer. And maybe not, I don't know, when I say interior designer, like, what do you think?
I don't think I'm an interior designer.
What do you think like that is? Like, how do you describe?
I think that's someone that has maybe education and like does it for more of a profession. Mm-hmm. Whereas I guess I did do it as a profession for a second, but I don't really have any education in it. I just, mm-hmm. I think I just have a kind of a knack for it, mm-hmm. and I enjoy it. So, and I have a little bit of experience doing it. So I wouldn't call me an interior designer though.
Okay.
That's like too bold of a word.
Yeah. Well, whatever word you want to use. So this is kind of how things went about with Alexis and my prior business partner. His wife and Alexis are super good friends. And so it's funny because we have done flip homes, for over a decade now. We've done it for a long time. But we started getting into new construction. And so I found that when we started doing those new construction homes, I was like going out to Floor and Decor and Home Depot and all these places, and I'm picking out finishes, and I'm just FaceTiming her the entire time, being like, does this work? Does this work? And I'm like hating every minute of it, and I hate picking finish. I could care less. I just want the home to sell and make a ton of money. And that's like really all that I care about, right? Like, it's just about the money for me. It's not about the home. I don't really care. I mean, I want to take pride in it, obviously, and I want to build a home that people will love, but at the end of the day, I don't enjoy it. And so it's funny because over time, I think we realized like, well, why are you going? And Alexis, she's not like a super cocky person by any stretch. She's the exact opposite. So I think that you, especially when you were younger, I feel like you didn't have a lot of confidence in like your abilities and were a little bit
in interior design.
Yeah, because you didn't have any experience.
Because I have never done anything like it before. I just but I think you would choose things and I'd be like, well, why did you do that? Like, you should do it like this and this. And so he was like, would you ever want to do it? And I think I still didn't have the confidence in it, but doing it with Catherine made it fun. And so it was like, we both had little kids at home. And so it was an excuse to get out. And then we learned pretty quick that we were a pretty good team and people liked what we did. And so we just kind of kept doing it. And with that, I gained a little bit of experience and it was fun. And I learned a lot in doing it. And I don't know if I'll ever do it again as like a job, but I love it. I love that I'm the person that people will reach out to if they're painting their house and need paint colors, or if they're looking for a rug and they want recommendations. Like, I like being that person for people. So I don't know. We'll see what future holds.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we're excited about with moving to Knoxville, I think that we're going to have more time together to be able to do hopefully some more flips. And because I really enjoy the pursuit of finding the deal, right? Like, that's what I enjoy. That's what gives me a rush is finding a property at a discount and being able to negotiate those terms in the contract. And so, like, that's my part. And then, of course, when it goes to sell, I could sell it all day long. I love that part of it. But I'm super excited to be able to work with Alexis, hopefully on more of these projects where, kind of like Fixer Upper, where we can be a team and she can go in. Because the thing that I've learned with Alexis is, like, I trust her completely, like 100% when it comes to the finishes. She's also really good with budgeting as well. And that, we used to joke all the time because she does have expensive taste. Let's not, beat around that bush at all. Like, that's the truth. But she also understands the budget. She understands the numbers. She understands, like, if you give her a number, she will go out and figure out how to make it work. And a lot of times, even if you go above on one line item, like, she's okay getting her hands dirty and refinishing some furniture that she got for discount and maybe painting it so that it works for that property, where, again, like, I would just be like, oh, like, I don't want to waste the time in doing that. But, like, you take it really personal, like, which,
I think that it's funny. I just listened to a talk this morning. I forget what it was called, but something about a home, and it was focused more on, like, the spirituality and religious aspects of a home and taking pride, or, like, I wish I could remember the name of it, but anyways, it got me thinking about, and knowing we were doing this today, on just what a home is, and that it's not just, drywall and bricks or whatever, that it's so much more than that. Like, it's the feelings that you have there. And I think the finishes and the function of a home really speak to those things and allow for those experiences. And like, a home to me is something that it's like family, and it's food, and it's laughter, and it's also maybe our home is definitely full of crying and screaming a lot of the time, but I think it's also that where people are comfortable and they can share those feelings. And so I think anytime I'm doing anything on a home, which typically it's my own home, but back in the day when we were doing other homes, I love that aspect of really getting to know the people that are going to live there. Or even right now, thinking about, because we're going to rent out our house and we're going to rent it furnished. And so thinking about how someone is going to function there or live there, or it's so exciting to me, because I think that is what makes a house a home, is the people that are there and the way they feel there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes I'll look at a home and I'm like, okay, like, if it needs to be furnished, okay, like, it needs a bed, it needs a dresser, it needs, you name it, whatever, towels, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just like, okay, go, whatever's the cheapest, check, throw it in there, let's go, move on. Alexis does not think that way whatsoever. She will dwell on the towels that we need to use for like a week, right? Like, or, maybe that's a bad example, but, like, especially when it comes to, like, spatial, like, functionality,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things, like, she will spend a crazy amount of time, like, it'll just constantly be, like, going in her head over and over again. And I think that's when I learned, like, it's so important, especially, maybe I learned this in business, or I don't know if it was in marriage, and maybe it's a combination of both. But a lot of times you learn that, okay, everyone has like a superpower. Everyone has, I labeled this, the Real Powerhouse podcast after she did give some input on this name. And so I got the okay. So it'll probably work now because I listened to my wife, and sometimes I still need to learn that lesson the hard way. But, she's a powerhouse in so many different ways, and all of us are. Like, everyone I feel like has been given these God-given abilities. And it's important to lean into that. Like, don't squash that. Don't, like, to your point of like being okay with me being a dreamer and being okay with like, I'm going to throw out all these ideas and a lot of them probably won't work, but you're okay with like being like, it's okay. Like, it'll be a phase. He'll get over it. And I really will. Like, if something doesn't make sense within a day, I'll just be like, oh yeah, that was dumb. Like, move on. That's okay for me. Whereas I think some people might like hang on to it and be like, no, I'm going to force feed this and I'm going to make it work. And I'm okay just saying, yep, that was a bad call. Let's move on. So anyways, I think that's super cool and it's something that, I mean, to be honest, like sometimes it drives me crazy because she'll be thinking like over and over about it, and she'll ask me multiple times about it, and I'm like, I thought we already, talked about this. I thought we already had an answer, but she's just constantly trying to always like make sure that it's perfect, and so.
And I actually don't think I'm a perfectionist. I don't at all.
No, you're not.
I think that I don't think it has to be perfect, but it has to. I think I'll keep turning it around in my head until it makes sense in my head, until I get to a spot where I feel good about it. But I don't think I'm like a total perfectionist. No. I think I'm okay functioning in some chaos.
Yeah. Which is why she's okay marrying me, clearly, right? Like, she's okay with like.
I don't think I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. Oh man, neither of us did. So yeah, let's go ahead there. What are some things that you had to learn maybe the hard way in marriage? Let's talk about some marriage do's and don'ts or things, or just funny stuff do's that you maybe just some like funny things that you're like, oh,
okay. So disclaimer, we did have a little practice round last night.
We did.
And we talked about a couple of things on this topic. But then this morning I was thinking about it again. And Shocking. I thought of some. See, it didn't fit quite right yesterday. Yep. I had to do a do-over. But I was trying to think of a funny story. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell a funny story.
Oh, good.
So this was probably like 7-8 years ago. And we got invited to a Christmas party with some friends. And we didn't know them very well. I knew the girls pretty well. But BJ didn't know the men there. And BJ's favorite thing in the world is a party.
Favorite. Yeah. Invite me to all the parties. See how that goes.
Especially when it involves like games and dressing up.
Yeah, those are all the buttons to push. Yeah.
So they invited us to a ugly sweater Christmas party, and we were leaving to drive. We were leaving to drive to Utah early the next morning. And when we travel, I think of everything and I do all the packing, all the thinking, right? Mm-hmm. And I had said to BJ earlier in the week that we needed headphones for our car so the kids could watch movies in the car.
This is my one responsibility.
Yeah. And I asked him if he would get the headphones, and he said that he would. And then, so it was, Friday night or whatever, Friday afternoon. And I asked him if he had gotten the headphones, and he hadn't. And he's like, it's okay, I'll get them. And I was like, well, we have this party tonight that we're going to. And so we went to the party, and we had been there for maybe like 20 minutes or so. And then he whispers to me, I'm going to go. I checked and they have these headphones at Best Buy. I'm going to go grab them real quick. And I was like, right now? And he's like, yeah, you can just stay here and I'll go grab them. And keep in mind, this is a couple's party. Like, everyone's there with their spouse. And so I was like, okay. He's like, I'll be right back. I'll be gone like 20 minutes. I'll be right back. I'm like, okay. So he leaves, and 20, 30, 45 minutes goes by. And I'm like, where's BJ? And keep in mind, they don't know him that well. Like, I feel like if you did that now, everyone would be like, oh yeah, it's just BJ, but they didn't know him very well. So I'm texting him. I'm like, where are you? And they didn't have him at the Best Buy he went to. So then he went to another Best Buy. And anyways, and then I was like, BJ, everyone's wanting to leave, but they feel like they can't leave because I'm going to be stuck here. And he was like, just get a ride home. It'll be fine. I'm like, I'm not getting a ride home with another couple. Anyways, so that was a funny story that I had thought of. And then he eventually did come back and pick me up, went home, and he couldn't figure out why I was so upset.
I know, we got the headphones.
We got the headphones.
So
he did what I asked him to do.
I knew that she was in her happy place with her friends and she could do the party thing while I just got the heck out of there.
Yeah.
And, I found an excuse to, go get the headphones. But they weren't at that store, so I had to go to a couple other ones. That was the reason why. It wasn't like I was purposely trying to, be gone for that long. But yeah.
And he thought he was doing me a favor in getting the headphones.
I did, yeah.
So he didn't understand what I was so upset about after the party, why I'd be upset. So, okay, moral of the story. That's a funny story. Yeah. But I think what I've learned in marriage is like balancing our personalities and balancing our likes and our dislikes. And I don't know, like in that case, nowadays I know that certain things aren't your favorite and what are my favorite, whereas I used to feel like we had to do everything together, and now I've found that like there are certain things that we like to do together and certain things that I can go to something, which this is funny, I haven't even told you this. Some of our friends are planning a little going away party for our family because we're moving.
Oh boy.
And they were trying to decide what to do, if they should just do a girl party or if it should be like full families or whatever. And this is really funny. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to say, BJ will be there from 6 to 6:30 and Alexis will be there from 6 to 9.
Genius.
I know.
See? It only took 10 years to figure that out.
So
I love that.
I don't know. I think that we've come a long way as far as balancing personalities and appreciating each other for what we do. Because I think this is probably the biggest thing is that I've learned to recognize the good things that you do because you do so much good and you put so much effort in everything that you do. And I do too. I'm like always working really hard and trying. Yeah. Don't think it's one-sided, but I think that's just it. Our lives are so jam-packed full of stuff all the time that we're both giving our all constantly. And even with that, there's things that we can't quite, get to or whatever. And I think we've learned to give each other grace in those things, knowing that really we're a team and we're working really hard to have the best possible situations. And I think it's just a matter of like trust and respect, knowing that that's going into it. But if that were to happen again, I still would be upset about it, just for the record.
I've learned. Yep. This old dog can still learn. No, and I think that obviously is that there's a lot to unpack there, but one of the biggest takeaways that I had, and this goes back to like when we first got married, one of the things that like blew me away, because we dated for a year in college, and then she was super young, so she literally was in her first semester in college. I was on my last semester of college, and so I saw her and I was like, okay, first of all, no chance in this world I will ever be able to date her, let alone marry her. So I didn't really put much stock into it. I just thought we would have fun and just, I would hang out with her or whatever. But again, I had no idea that it would even lead to where it did. But, there was definitely like a gap, right, in age or whatever. And I was so mature. Like, I think that it was really, I'm just kidding. I'm still.
I was waiting for you to like.
the less of the mature kidding. Between the two of us. But yeah, like I definitely, it's funny because one of the things with Alexis is, and we joked about this last night, but like she says now that she knows sarcasm or that she understands when I'm sarcastic, which I still don't believe that at all. So, but maybe she's come a long ways on that. But yeah, she never really has understood sarcasm. And if she does, she doesn't think it's funny, which again, to me, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's like my entire life is just, that's the only thing I will laugh at is if it's sarcastic. So that's something that we struggle. And so I think in the beginning I would get so frustrated, like, why aren't you more sarcastic? And then, and the same thing with, different characteristic traits that, maybe would drive me crazy when we were first married. And I think over time we just realized, like, don't try and change her. Like, don't try and change me, because neither of us are going to change. Like, we're, maybe we can like trim around the edges a little bit, but we're not changing like our core self. Like that has been, we read, or I sent her a video to this guy that was talking about kids, for example. And they're born, they said, with like 400 different personality characteristic traits. So his point being that people come to this world prepackaged. They are already a very certain type of individual. Like, you're not going to be able to just take anyone and turn them into this incredible athlete or musician or whatever, if that's not what they are, what they are passionate about, or what they're equipped to do. And so, it actually takes some pressure off of parents thinking that, oh, it's on me if they don't become this amazing person, like, or vice versa. It really is like all of us come with different, like characteristic traits and different strengths and weaknesses. And so we've learned over time, I feel like, to just be okay with, like, this is who Alexis is, this is who I am. And we're okay with that. In fact, I think we lean into it more.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I was going to say, not just be okay with it, like really appreciate it. And like, I think the same thing applies with our kids. Like, we are, whereas maybe a few years ago, I would have tried to like change them or try and, discipline certain characteristics out of them or something. And now I've learned that that's a part of them, and that it is a virtue, that these certain things that maybe can be hard when you're trying to raise a kid like that, but that, if we learn to look for the good in those things and appreciate them, then that's where the real like beauty lies.
Yeah.
It's like full circle, like houses, like flipping houses, you have to like.
Yeah. I just saw that light bulb literally go off as you're talking. That's cool.
Yeah. Like it, I don't know. Yeah. That was part of our conversation last night, was how I love like flips and renovations and stuff. Because it,
like taking something that's already there and improving it and not necessarily changing the whole thing.
Right.
So,
and using its quirks as like character, as opposed to like having to start from scratch or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys can see. Well, yeah, you can. So there's a Michael Jordan poster behind me. So I'm a massive Michael Jordan fan.
Is that why you wanted us to sit right here?
Yeah, in fact, that's a big reason why we had to sit this way, because I was like, oh, I gotta show the poster. But anyways, I'm a big sports person. Anyone that knows me, obviously, I'm pretty obsessed, I guess. And so, again, when you kind of envision like what's going to happen with your kids, right, and who they're going to be and all this stuff. And it's been so interesting to see how it just has unfolded, because our first daughter, Lila, is like not afraid at all of getting in front of people and singing and anything like dancing or, plays. She loves being in front of a large audience, and I am like the exact opposite. Like, I will vomit like just thinking about it. Like, I'm like, no, I do not want to do that. And so she'll a lot of times be like, Dad, I'm so sorry that you get so sad, or that you get so scared in front of these people, because to her it just doesn't exist. She just has no issue getting in front of people. And so I've learned to just like, man, that's such a cool thing. Or my son James, like, he's not as much into sports, right now, but he loves watching them. He loves, going to the games and all that kind of stuff. And we still talk about him and all that stuff. But it's not like what he lives for. Like, when I was a kid, that was like all that I could think about. He's insanely smart, and he's like super good at chess, right? And so like I've learned to like go to these.
He's so funny.
He's hilarious. Yeah.
And he's like
so he tells jokes in school. Like, we didn't even know that he was doing this. Like, he just, like, I think it was one of the teachers one day told us that did you know that
he goes to other classes at school during his recess or during lunch and tells jokes or tells them stories, and they all love him. Like, we walk through the school and everybody knows who James is because he comes in their class and tells jokes.
Yeah, we don't teach this stuff. Like, we can't take credit for any of it, And like, So yeah, James would go and like he would read to the kindergartners, and so all the kindergartners are super sad that he's leaving because like he would always read to them, and the teachers loved it too. So like, great, we don't have to deal with these kids for a minute, and like he'll come in and he wants to do it instead of recess. That's what he wants to do. Same thing with Lila. Like she loves the special needs kids, and so again, we didn't do this. This has nothing to do with us. She just was like, hey, I love helping out special needs kids. So every single day for recess, everyone else is going out and playing and hanging out, doing, I guess, normal
playing
kid
basketball
stuff,
and football,
playing sports. And so our kids are hanging out, teaching kindergartners, and telling jokes and, helping out special needs kids. And so like, how cool is that? Like I would have never in a million years guessed that's what our kids would be doing, but they are. And I love it. And I think it's the coolest thing ever. And so you just got to lean into it. And I think with us too, we've also figured out like, okay, Alexis needs social time. She needs to be with her friends. That's her happy place. She puts in a crazy amount of hours and time and effort in our family. So she needs to get away from the kids every once in a while. And so I have always just been okay. And I don't mind. I'm a homebody and I'm talking to people a lot of times all day long. And so I actually need to recharge. I'm the opposite. Like I need to get home and be in silence for a minute and just kind of watch a show or sports or whatever. And so that's kind of how I unwind. And so I'm okay hanging out at home while she goes to hang out with her friends, because I think we both know that we're both going to be better for it. And instead of you being like, no, I don't want to go out with my friends without you, and forcing me to go, hang out with couples or whatever, like you've figured out like, oh,
yeah. And I think I've realized that you've always been so good at supporting me in that. Like, instead of, I think exactly what you said. Like, I could have been mad that you didn't want to come, but instead I have learned to appreciate the fact that you're supportive of me going and doing that. So,
Yeah, and it's so funny too, because I think the biggest learning curve I would say for us in our first couple of years was figuring out the family dynamic too, of like, how often do we go, to these activities or whatever. And so, that was another thing that everyone has to figure out. And everyone has these different challenges when they first get married, and it's different for everyone. But like it took a while, but I think that eventually we kind of figured each other out. And like, okay, there is some compromise. There is some, and that way both of us can walk away with not being too scarred and, being okay.
And I think these things are ever evolving, right? Like, I think we're going to, with this big move and this big change, we're going to have to probably figure things out again. But I think we're in the 15 years of being married, we've made some progress and but I think it is ever evolving. I think it's something that we constantly have to be working it on and be mindful of so that we can always make progress.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I typically like to end the show with 3 questions. And so the first one being, is there a podcast or book? You don't really read books, you listen to Audible. You're an Audible junkie. So what's one that you're listening to or they listen to that you like a lot?
I don't think my books are really what people who listen to your podcast
Never know.
I like the fluffy books. I like happy, what's the word, fiction. But podcasts is obviously, I can't think of the new name. The Real Powerhouse.
It's going to take a minute. You like my podcast?
I do.
Oh, thank you.
I've listened to it every episode.
Wow, thank you.
Might skip this one though.
No, you won't. Okay, biggest growth year. What was your biggest growth year?
Oh, I think normally when you ask this question, I always think it's like the year that people made the most money, but biggest growth year, like personally.
No, personally, yeah.
Probably 2020 for me, because I had twins in 2020 and I mean, the world shut down. The kids couldn't go to school. It was a trying year, but also filled with lots and lots of cool memories and wonderful blessings. And so I think that was probably it so far.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was a crazy year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was it was honestly like a blur. It's kind of funny. Like I don't remember a lot of it. Like it flew by.
I remember a lot of it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was intense, but there was a lot of good.
Yeah.
Too. A lot of good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what advice would you give to yourself, your younger self, besides like that BJ guy?
Stop.
Keep walking. No, what's some advice that you would give yourself that you've learned over the years?
Yeah. Probably to not sweat the small stuff and to just enjoy the ride, that everything works out and the way it's supposed to, and to look for the good and look for the blessings because they're always there. And I think I've always been pretty good at that. I'm pretty I'm pretty good at seeing the silver linings, but I also think I used to stress and worry a lot more than I do now. I think I've gotten better at just going with the flow a little bit more and kind of embracing the chaos.
Yeah, and it's so funny now because like our daughter Lila, the oldest, she is always like the martyr, right? She's always like, "Oh, it's so hard being the oldest. You have no idea." And I'm sure she's gonna listen to this podcast. It'll be funny. Like, Dad, I can't believe you said that. But anyways, yeah, she's always saying how hard it was and all that stuff, and we're like, hey, you know what? It's funny because I think that with her, we're moving, and so we're going through all of our old journals and pictures and all that kind of stuff. And she was a very difficult child. Like there's no way to sugarcoat that at all. She was a crazy toddler, man. Like she was hard. She wouldn't talk to anyone except for me. If we ever went anywhere, like even to her parents' house or with her family, like she wouldn't let anyone hold her. So it was a crazy time for us. But it's funny because I think that we sweated the small stuff. Like we would sweat. Like, is she talking like enough? Is she understanding? Is she, playing with other kids? Like, what's her growth? Like, where should she be on the growth chart? I don't know. Like, there were just so many things that I feel like we always were like, oh man, I hope that she's going to be the same as the other kids and all that kind of stuff. And then I don't know when it was, but I think that there may be just a point where like you're so busy, and we had, James and
well, perspective for sure.
Yeah.
You do it a few times and kids grow out of things and yeah, I think you just gain that perspective and don't, like I already said, that everything works out. And not to say that there doesn't need to be some help sometimes or some resources that you need to, we've definitely taken advantage of those things with having 5 kids, and there's, we've taken advantage of certain therapies and like speech therapy and different things with certain ones of our kids. But it is interesting to see how with the twins, I don't stress about really much of anything. Like I think it'll all work out, and it does.
And that's why Lila was always so mad, is because she's like, they are getting away with all of these other things. And it's like, it's just because we realize that it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. Like, you guys are going to turn out okay. And so they'll figure it out. And so anyways, I totally agree with that. Cause and I'm not someone that typically sweats the small stuff anyways, but I would be lying if I said like with our oldest child, that was a concern. Like I was really nervous at different points, with her development and those kind of things. And then it's just so cool, kind of like what we were talking about with them in school. Like who would have ever thought that she would be the sweetest girl. Everyone loves her. She's, this amazing support to the special needs community. And none of that was anything that we did.
Well, and it's funny because a couple years ago, she kind of was struggling with friends at school, and I was so worried about it. And I was worried about, should I step in? Should I help? Should I talk to parents? Should I talk to teachers? And I didn't really. I talked to her teacher a little bit about it just to make sure everything was okay. And then she found this other path where she loves these special needs kids. And I think it's because she's kind of bossy and kind of controlling that she does so well there, because they love her and she loves them. And I don't know. It's kind of cool going back to the failures thing. I don't think it was a failure, but it's funny how through our hard things, if you dig deep and you keep going, you find a gem at the end. And I mean, we see that in our kids and we see that in our marriage. And I think it applies to all aspects of life.
Yeah. Man, this has been fun. This time flew by. I think this is actually our longest podcast maybe that we've done. Looking at the time right now. So hopefully you guys made it all the way through that. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I was really nervous. Good. But it was fun.
No, that was a blast. So, yeah, thanks everyone for taking some time out of your day to listen to this podcast. This is the
Real Powerhouse Podcast.
Boom.
Nailed
Thanks
it.
for listening.